Hi there, everyone. Here we are on the Menopause Consultancy, and I have the absolute pleasure of introducing an amazing doctor who is hugely passionate about women's health and especially the menopause. Dr. Waitze Cheng, and we've just been having a little bit of a laugh because I love Waitze's name because it's just so beautiful. But she's just been explaining to me that it's pronounced slightly differently from where she's from, which has just made me laugh. But Waitze, welcome to the Menopause Consultancy.
Thank you so much.
It's
Thank
amazing
you.
what you guys are doing. And what led you into, because we've had many discussions at the Menopause Consultancy about the fact that there is just this huge lack of information, and that women, the reality is, and this is what we've always spoken about, there's no side door, there's no little side door that you can stick 50 quid in and say, right, I'm going to skip the menopause. What brought you into wanting to specialize in this?
So I had done some menopause training during my GP practice, and I realized actually there was so many patients I was seeing regularly, and I felt really not as confident as I should have been when I was doing my GP training. And there was probably a maximum of 3 or 4 pages that we learned as GP trainees, and that was it. That was to cover everything. So I thought, oh gosh, I'm not giving the best service as I can to my patients, and I felt it was an injustice. So I really wanted to learn more about it and give the best possible service to my patients. And it also got triggered when my mum and her twin sister were starting to go through the menopause themselves, and they had so many myths and misbeliefs, and I really wanted to correct them. So about 3 years ago, I then went on, during my maternity, I went on the British Menopause Society 2-day course, just to educate myself and feel really comfortable about the subject and learn more and help my patients better. And so there was a 180-page book that I came away with. Wow. That I had to read, that made me feel really well equipped and knowledgeable about menopause, and also a double arch folder of notes that I did on those 2 days. And then during that time, I realized, oh gosh, I'm so passionate about this. I could change so many people's lives with the knowledge that I now have. I wanted to go further with it and become a specialist. And so then I gained myself an honorary contract at West Middlesex Hospital, where I did my training and then did clinics myself, and also had some training at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, and just saw such a huge difference in the quality of life of women that I was seeing. Initially seeing them really struggling with all their multiple symptoms, and then being able to really tailor the treatment of whether it be HRT or something else for them that suited their lifestyle and all their other risk factors and comorbidities. And then just seeing them a few months later as changed people back to their normal selves again. And it was just really worthwhile as a doctor to be able to make such huge impact in people's lives.
I mean, that must just be enormously satisfying. And as a menopausal woman myself, and many people may not know, but I'm the author on Facebook of the Menopausal Mayhem Mothers, where I sort of see the lighter side of it. But having gone through the surgical menopause myself, and I do get a lot of messages from ladies, and I'm over lots of different forums on the internet, where there is just this enormous lack of information, where women are not even sure if they're going into perimenopause because they're still having periods, they're very young. Often, I mean, one of the most common problems is women go in to see a GP and they are told they're too young.
Totally.
But it must be an amazingly rewarding thing, because I know personally from having gone to the Menopause Consultancy out of, when I say desperation, I was a shadow of my former self. I'm a fairly confident, outgoing person, and I literally became a recluse. Hot flushes, anxiety, insomnia, and I'm preaching to the converted here, to all the menopausal women out there that are listening. But how amazing that you've gone and done that. And I mean, how do you how does it work? How does the process work? Obviously, at the moment, it's all done remotely. If a patient were to come to you, how would the process start, and how would you take them through it?
So normally we'd get them to do a questionnaire firstly to go through all their symptoms that they're suffering, and then to upload that, and then we have a new patient has a 45-minute consultation, so that we've got plenty of time to go through all the things that concerning you, that you're suffering, or your risk factors, the benefits of having HRT, if that's the right treatment for you, or other medications that we can give you. The issue with, like, I'm a GP myself as well, my background is what I trained in, and there's only so much you can do in 10 minutes. You really can't do a thorough history and explanation. And yes, you can do it in multiple 10 minutes consultations, but it's just so bitty. And you might have to wait another 2 weeks before you see your GP, or 3 weeks before you get your next consultation. Whereas if you have 45 minutes dedicated to just all your symptoms, I can have a really holistic look at you and then tell you what is the best treatment plan for you, what, depending on your lifestyle and what your risk factors are. So that's how it works. And then if you were to have another follow-up, normally it's 3 months time, we then have another half an hour to see how you're getting on with your treatment regime. Is it working? Do we need to tweak it and make it increase it, or do we need to change things around, or things aren't, that's totally not working for you, we need to give you something completely different.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
That's fantastic. And I think one of the most important messages that when I've spoken to the other doctors from the Menopause Consultancy, that a lot of women don't realize, I mean, there are two great, I say, myths out there. One of them is that on average, we live longer postmenopausally than we do premenopausally. And so many women sort of see, okay, I'm going through the menopause, I either have to suffer this, or this isn't the menopause, I'm just going completely mad. But actually, you know, there is this incredible life. I mean, I like to see it as the harvest of my life. You know, I've done my children. Lots of people haven't had children, obviously, but, you know, I've done the menstruation thing. I've done the being pregnant thing. Wasn't very good at that. Had children, did sleepless nights, did all that. Now they're teenagers, and invariably these days we go through the menopause at the same time as our children actually hit teenage years, and so hormones flying everywhere. But actually now, and I'm a 53-year-old woman, so I've actually been probably going through the menopause for about 8 years, but I took myself
you're frozen.
Oh yeah. Oh,
sorry, say that again.
Sorry, did I
froze for a last little bit?
Is that better? So I've been going through the menopause for 8 years because of the removal of my ovaries and my uterus, etc. But because of the myth that HRT is very dangerous, I stopped taking it, and within an instant, the anxiety was back, the insomnia was back, the hot flushes were back. And then I was recommended the Menopause Consultancy, and I went to see one of the doctors there. And when I say life-changing, I am me again, but also, and it was as simple as HRT that you guys prescribe these days is not dangerous, is it? It's protective.
No. So it is protective. You also mentioned, you really reminded me of a case that I saw of, you know, a late 40s something, early 50s lady who very high flying, and I see it time and time again, very high flying, high functioning ladies who will be working and then say suddenly, gosh, I can't do my job anymore. Like, I've been doing this for the last 20 years and now I'm forgetful, I've got brain fog, I just can't concentrate. How can I not be able to do this job I've been doing every single day for 20 years, and suddenly I'm not able to do it again, plus all the hot flushes and every other menopausal symptom they're having. Sorry, that was just because you were explaining your symptoms, and it really reminds me of seeing these ladies time and time again. By being on HRT, you know, if you get on HRT before you're 60, it's cardioprotective, it's protecting your bones. If you're very young and have premature ovarian insufficiency, so before the age of 40, that it's definitely going to reduce your risk of heart attacks. It can also reduce your risk of Alzheimer's as well. So it can reduce your risk of colon cancer, possibly, and also reduces your cholesterol risks and central obesity as well. So there's so many things, beneficial things it can do. And yes, there are a few risks to it, HRT, but we try and negate a lot of those risks. And we try and, the biggest risk I think everybody gets worried about is breast cancer. And actually, if you compare it to a lot of things that people do on a day-to-day basis, so it has a less risk than if you were to drink a glass of wine every single day, okay? You're less likely to get breast cancer than if you drink a glass of wine every single day, okay? If you exercise for 2.5 hours a week, you completely negate that risk, and more so. Lots of women take the pill and have no qualms about it, and GPs give it very easily because we want to give birth control to people. But that's got the same risk as HRT, and nobody goes, oh, I'm not going to take the pill because I'm worried about breast cancer. But do you know what I mean? So everything is comparative, and yes, there may be a very slight increased risk with HRT to breast cancer, but in terms of drinking alcohol, nobody stops because they think, oh gosh, it's so dangerous. Or smoking also increases your risk. So if you're not smoking, you're not drinking regularly, if you do exercise, you can negate a lot of those risks. And the biggest risk of breast cancer is being obese. So if you're overweight, then, you know, if out of 1,000 women who are aged 50 to 59, 23 out of 1,000 women will get breast cancer regardless. If you take HRT, that's an extra 4 women on top of that 23 will get breast cancer. That's if they're taking estrogen and progesterone type. If you are obese, so with a BMI of greater than 30, that's the 24 extra women on top of that 23 who will get breast cancer. So
I mean, you put it into massive perspective there, and it's like with all these things, you have to balance everything in life. And for me personally, when I went to the Menopause Consultancy, and as I say, I wouldn't say a broken person. Gosh, I am very dramatic. You'll learn that about me. Hence the blog. But yeah, I was not myself, and you know, very tearful, very you know, no confidence. I mean, going to the supermarket, I had to rev myself up to do that. It was ridiculous. And then had a chat, and my mum had breast cancer, so that was my big fear. That's why I wanted to come off it. And then it was explained to me, and I think this is the most important thing. This is a myth that has been put out there from many, many years ago that's stuck around, you know, and we need to dispel that myth. And that's what you guys are doing. And that's why, you know, I would say to every single menopausal woman that sees this video, sees this short film that's made by a mad menopausal woman who really lost herself for a very long time. And it was heartbreaking, not just for me, but for my family as well, because I was, as I say, a shadow of my former self. I'm now back, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling, because at the age of 53, I hope I've got another 25, 30 years of life in me, and good life without aching bones. I can run, I can do things that I couldn't do before. And it's time now for me to reap what I've sown. You know, I've done the hard work. And so now it's fun time, and feeling good within yourself. And look, you're a private practice, so it's not a free service. But with all that said, you know, we see women going out, and I'm one of them, to have their roots done, to have their highlights done, to have their manicures, and they come out looking absolutely beautiful, having spent that money, and feeling absolutely ghastly because they're not themselves. So it's just so worth coming to see you guys and being listened to. I think that's the most important thing, not just being listened to, but being understood.
Totally. And I think given the whole pandemic as well, I think our services are needed even more so. Even prior to the COVID pandemic, there was a need for menopausal services. I spoke to lots of colleagues, GPs, who didn't even know there were secondary care menopausal specialist clinics. You know, they just didn't even know they existed. So they didn't refer any of these people that are really suffering when the menopausal symptoms. Another thing that I learned, and even as myself, prior to doing my menopausal training, there was this whole misnomer belief that you can't give HRT for more than 5 years. It's too dangerous. We can't prescribe it, and stopping lots of patients on it. So they'd be given, you know, they'd be told, oh, sorry, it's too dangerous for me to give you this HRT now. I need to stop you, and then write to the menopausal services, which will then take 3 months for them to get seen, to then be put back on it again. Because, you know, the British Menopause Society now say there's no arbitrary figure however long you can be on HRT for however long the benefits are, the greater than the risks, and as long as you're getting reviewed year on year, that's okay. So you can continue taking HRT. There's not a 5-year cutoff and then you have to stop, which I'd seen personally with a lot of my patients when I was in general practice were stopped by my colleagues, and then not put back on again. They refuse to give them their symptoms. And when you abruptly stop HRT as well, that's when you get an explosion of all your menopausal symptoms. And it's so much worse than weaning it off slowly. So
I'm planning on staying on it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, there's lots of people, and my mother-in-law's on it, and she swears by it as well. So yeah, I just want to get that message out there to everybody. You don't have to stop HRT after 5 years just because your GP tells them. They've got to assess your risks and the benefits of it, but you can be on it till the day you die if need be.
Yeah. Well, Waitze, it has been an absolute pleasure. And I'm going to make sure that this film gets spread far and wide, because it's really, really important for everybody to know, because we are all going to go through this. Some people will breathe through it. Some people will want to go through it naturally. And I know that you guys also do support, natural supplements, and basically you tailor make everything to the individual woman. And my message, and I think it's probably going to be the same as yours, is don't suffer in silence. Stop just taking it as in taking the menopause and letting it control your life, which is happening all over the world. My blog goes global. And I'm seeing women literally whose lives just stop. And that does not need to happen. And it's really important. And investing in your mental health and in your physical health is really, really important. And there's ladies like you out there. And the wonderful thing is, I think one of the most important messages is that the Menopause Consultancy and ladies like Waitze are available. You just have to go onto the website, www.menopauseconsultancy.co.uk. You email the lovely Louise Jackson, who is amazing, and get an appointment with Waitze, and she will change your life. She will change your life, I promise. And so it has been an absolute joy talking to you, because it, for me, as a menopausal woman who, as I say, I speak to a lot of menopausal women, to hear that there is help out there, and it doesn't matter where you are in the country. No. It's all done remotely, because essentially you don't really need to do a physical examination of a woman, do you?
Not generally. I think the most important thing we get is just your blood pressure and your BMI, so your body mass index. So we know your height and weight, so then we can adjust the type of HRT for you. Just we need to make sure everything we're doing is the safest thing for you. So yeah. That's the only thing we really need.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And God, just for me, how do they say it in Lancashire?
They say Waitze.
I love it. Ladies, give these guys a ring, the Menopause Consultancy, and you can have 45 minutes with this amazing lady who is going to change your life. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm coming to see you really soon.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.